Hey, welcome back to another episode of In the Kitchen with Jen. In today's episode, we're going to be making the perfect butter cookies. Stay tuned. So the reason why I love this recipe is they're so versatile and so easy. I've been using this recipe for 15 years. So you can use them for decorated cookies. You can use them to make other cookies, like turning them into thumbprints. You can even switch out the ingredients in the recipe to make it dairy-free or gluten-free or egg-free, and it still works. So it's a really great recipe. So in this version, we're just gonna be doing the regular gluten version with the eggs and the dairy and stuff. But I will do a future episode where we change out those things and make it an allergy-free cookie so you can see just how easy and versatile this recipe is. So let's go ahead and get started. So we are using the creaming method with this. So we're gonna be starting by putting in 1 cup of butter. And I'm turning my mixer on to low speed, and I just want to get the butter going first before I add my sugar. Make sure to have a handy dandy spatula with you so that you can scrape down the bowl, of course. Okay, so you can see that it's starting to pile up onto the paddle. So I just want to stop it and scrape everything down and then mix it again before I add my sugar. So the creaming method basically is butter and sugar together before you add the rest of the ingredients to your recipe. Just a little tip for new bakers, if you are trying to figure out what's 1 cup of butter, there is a measuring thing on the side of the butter where it says 1 cup, half a cup, quarter cup, and then another quarter cup, so it measures it out for you. So all you have to do is cut in that half mark that tells you that that's 1 cup of butter, because a 454 gram block is actually 2 cups of butter. So when you cut it in half, that's 1 cup. So just a little tip for you if you're new to baking. Okay, so that's pretty good. We are going to scrape down this again, and then we're gonna add our sugar. So I'm using a stand mixer for this. It'll make your life so much easier if you have a stand mixer. To try to do this with like a regular hand mixer is going to probably drive you nuts, but you can definitely try. But I recommend using a stand mixer for this. So now I'm gonna add in 1 cup of sugar. So there's 1 cup of granulated white sugar. It goes in the bowl, and then I'm going to put my mixer down again on low speed to start, just until combined. And then I'm going to turn it up to medium speed. So I've turned it up to medium speed. I'm going to let that go for a minute. I want it to get a little bit fluffy. So you can see it's starting to get fluffier. You might turn it up just 1 more. It's like medium-high speed. You can see it's starting to expand. Even though it's like hitting the side of the bowls, it's starting to look bigger. So it's getting fluffier. Okay. I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to scrape everything down. So like I said, I've been using this recipe for 15 years and I absolutely love it. I switched to it because it's got way less sugar than a sugar cookie for one, and it stays moist and lasts longer than a sugar cookie. Sugar cookies tend to dry out really fast and get hard and stuff. This stays moist, but it stays hard enough that you can use it for decorated cookies, and it'll last 2 weeks at room temperature, which is amazing. You can also use this dough right away after making it. You don't have to let it sit in the fridge. If you want it to be like a little easier to use, then yes, put it in the fridge. But if you're in a hurry, you can make this dough up and use it right away and roll it out, which is amazing. I don't know if I mentioned it, but use room temperature butter. Okay, so I've scraped this down. I'm gonna mix it up 1 more time. And that's good. Okay. So again, we're scraping down our bowl. Always scrape down your bowl in between mixes. It just makes sure that all the ingredients get combined. So the next ingredient you're gonna add, or ingredients that are already combined together in this bowl, is 2 eggs, and a teaspoon of vanilla. So those are gonna go in. So these are your wet ingredients. And you're gonna mix that until combined. Okay, so it looks combined there. It has this like wet granulated look to it. So again, I am scraping down my handy dandy mixer, and then we are moving on to dry ingredients. So you can see the sequence I'm doing this in. So we did the creaming method first using the butter and the sugar. Then we added our wet ingredients, being the egg and the vanilla, and now we're adding in our dry ingredients. So with the dry ingredients, don't add it all in at once, because depending on how much moisture you got out of those eggs, you might need just like a little bit less, or maybe you might need a little bit more. So this is 3 cups of flour and half a teaspoon of baking powder and half a teaspoon of baking soda. There's no salt in this because I used salted butter. So if you wanted to use regular butter that's unsalted, you could add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt to your flour mix here. But because I used salted butter, I didn't add any extra salt. So I'm going to add in like 3/4 of this mix to start. And when you're adding dry ingredients, always make sure to start your mixer off on low. You might even want to do like turn it off quick, turn on, turn it off, turn on, turn it off, just to get it started. Otherwise you're gonna have like a poof flour cloud, which is no fun for anybody. Okay, so I'm gonna turn this on low. And it's starting to look a little bit more combined. So now I'm gonna go back in. I'm gonna scrape it down. You don't want to over mix this too, because you don't want like to over mix all the gluten in here. So I usually mix until combined. And I'm adding my dry ingredients in 2 sections. I'm going to add in the rest of my dry ingredients. Again, turn your mixer on low to start. See, that's that flour cloud I was talking about. So now that it's a little more full, I'm gonna do the on-off method until it like starts going. See, I told you not to do it, and then I did it to myself. And then you know this recipe is ready and perfectly mixed when it starts to combine together and pull away from the sides of the bowl. You see what it's doing there? It's pulling away from the sides of the bowl. So that's how we, whoops, that's how we know that dough's ready. I turned it the opposite way. See, I am not used to working on this angle. It's totally fine though. Okay. You can see like it's a good consistency dough. So I could totally roll that out right now, or I could let it sit in the fridge for a little bit and then use it later if I want it to be even easier to work with. So I'm gonna take my paddle off. So I'm gonna scrape again, as good as I can. It's a little tough now that it's mixed together, but just do the best that you can just to get all the stuff off the bottom there. Take the bowl off. Get rid of my stand mixer. Okay, so to store this, I'm gonna wrap it in some plastic wrap. So like I said, you could totally use this right now, but if you want it even easier to work with, just because the butter was room temperature, it is a little soft. Like I said, if you were in a hurry, you could use this now. Then put it in the fridge for a few hours, or put it in the fridge overnight. So I've got that fully wrapped. And then you could also put this in a bag if you wanted to keep it extra fresh, like put it in like a freezer Ziploc bag and then put it in the fridge. So I've got some I've already made before, so I'm gonna show you how to roll out this cookie dough now. So I have an odd way of rolling out cookie dough, but I found that it works the easiest for me. So I lay out plastic wrap with the area I'm gonna be rolling it out on, because I hate using flour. I will use flour when I absolutely have to, but if I can get away with this method, I use it. So I lay plastic wrap over the area I'm going to be rolling out, and then I break off a piece, You're gonna have to use the muscles because it's been sitting in the fridge so the butter got hard. And then I sort of like knead it as good as I can, get it warmed up a little bit with the warmth of my hand because of that butter. Okay, so I've got it worked in like a little bit. So then I'm gonna squish it as much as I can. Squish. Then I'm gonna take another piece of plastic wrap, the size of what I'm gonna be rolling out, put it over top. I know this is not a usual method. Like I said, I just find this works best for me, especially when I'm only doing a small quantity and I don't want like the hassle or the mess of cleaning up flour. Plus flour gives me like goosebumps when I use it. It's like scratching your nails on a chalkboard. So I try to avoid it at all costs. So you can try this method, or if flour doesn't bug you, you can like dust your area of flour and roll it out then. So I've got a little rolling pin. It doesn't matter what size your rolling pin is, whatever rolling pin you have. I'm just using a little one for this purpose. And you're going to just like push it and try and get it even thickness all the way through. And if the plastic wrap starts bunching up when you start rolling it, just pull the top piece off and then lay it back down again. And then roll. I know flour prevents things from sticking to the counter, but sometimes they still stick to the counter if you don't like redust your surface when you've been rolling out for a little bit. This prevents it from sticking to my rolling pin. This prevents me from having flour everywhere. So this is just, like I said, what I prefer, but when I'm doing like large quantities, yes, sometimes I have to use like flour all over my counter and do it that way. And then I have a cookie cutter here, and I'm just going to cut my shape. And then it literally just lifts right off the plastic wrap like that. And then I will put it on a tray lined with parchment paper. You want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, so you want to bake these at 350 degrees and place them on the middle rack of your oven. See you in a bit, cookies. So you're gonna check on these. So they are looking brown on the edge of the bottom, so I'm gonna pull these bad boys out. So these look absolutely perfect. I would leave them for about 15 minutes before you move them anywhere, and then I would leave the lid off or the plastic wrap off on wherever you're moving them until they fully cool down. So now the hardest part is you have to decide whether or not you're gonna eat them as is, whether or not you wanna drizzle them with chocolate, or maybe you wanna full on decorate them with royal icing. And if you do want to fully decorate them, I have a whole bunch of tutorials on my YouTube channel right now. I will link to that playlist right here that you can go check out to see some mini tutorials on how to decorate them. If you need extra help, I've got you covered. If you've never piped a cookie before, in the next episode of In the Kitchen with Jen, I'm gonna be doing a 101 on piping skills for decorated cookies. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoy your cookies. And if you do happen to make them and decorate them, please tag me on Instagram at RealJenGardner. I'd be so happy to see your creations. Thanks so much for joining me in this episode, and have an amazing day. Oh, you're making a mess, because I always make a mess, because I do. Doesn't matter that I just cleaned up my kitchen. Nope, we're making a mess. Okay. Oh my god, I just had a heart attack there. I thought I forgot to push record. Oh my gosh. Okay, Jen.